Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. This is the Yoyotech Spartan, which I got as a special deal from game.co.uk, and I've got some issues. Let's discuss. Okay, so this is the Yoyotech Spartan. Now, for those of you that haven't watched the videos before, this is a special deal which I managed to get from hotukdeals, which is a site in the UK which posts special deals and offers throughout the country. So this was posted on the site, and this was selling for £119.99, including VAT, shipping, packing, all that kind of stuff. So under £120 for a full Windows 10 PC. Now the specs of this are not particularly high, so it's an AMD A8-9600 CPU, 8 gigs of RAM, a 1TB hard disk drive, micro ATX motherboard, micro ATX case, 400 watt power supply, and a Windows license. That pretty much sums it up straight away. So I tried to kind of price up a system based on similar components on PC Part Picker, and I come up to around about the £300 mark, give or take. If you take off the Windows license, which was about sort of £80–90, takes you to a little bit over £200, so about £210, £220, which actually for a full PC is still pretty good value for money. So I thought I'd go for it, £120, in for a penny, in for a pound, quite literally. So this is what actually arrived. So this is the Yoyotech Spartan. It's an older model, it's not actually available anymore, so I'm pretty sure this is clearance stock, which is why they've done it for such a drastically low price. So let's go through some of the bits we've received in the box, the accessories box, and then I'll discuss some of my issues and give you my kind of overall thoughts on it. There will be an additional part to this video, which will be coming up very soon, where we'll be going through doing some benchmarks and trying to improve the performance, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of content, make sure you click on the subscribe button and the chime icon, and then you'll be notified of future video releases. And obviously, if you've got any comments or questions or any things that you would particularly like benchmarked or tested on this particular system, please do let me know in the comments, and we'll see if we can make it happen for the next video. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at what we actually got for our money. So first of all, the actual PC itself came in a larger outer, which was branded with Yoyotech, and the case was actually included with this accessories box and also some foam packaging to try and keep things nice and safe. Unfortunately, that packaging didn't quite work out as intended, so I did actually receive this unit with a couple of damages, which we'll go on to in a little bit. But first of all, let's take a look at the actual accessories, and I'll show you a picture now of the box. So this case actually is from GameMax, another UK company. They also sell on Amazon and around the world. I'll put some links for those as well. But this case is the GameMax Hero. There's a couple of versions of this available, so again, I'll try and put some links so you can check out it for yourself. Again, this is a slightly older case from GameMax. I don't think it's a current model, but I'll see if I can find some links for you. It's not entirely a bad case, to be completely honest with you. Its looks may not suit everyone. The acrylic side panel, again, not everyone's cup of tea, but this is kind of like a budget end case, so some people may like it, some people may absolutely hate it and despise it, but essentially, for what it is, it does the job quite well. This is the accessories box that just came through, and yeah, some of you will see there that it says ASUS in search of incredible. Well, the incredible thing about it is there is no ASUS parts inside this build whatsoever. The motherboard in there is a GIGABYTE version. It is the GA-A320M-H, which is a completely different motherboard and is nowhere near anything that comes from ASUS, although there was a video we did on ASUS motherboard very similar, which you can check out up here if you want to. So actually inside the ASUS box is our accessories. So we get a 3-pin power plug for the UK, always handy. We have also a Windows 10 DVD, which is slightly ironic because there actually isn't an optical drive or the ability to fit an optical drive into this machine. So if you did need to do a reinstall, you'd need to somehow get this onto a USB stick to make that happen, or go ahead and purchase an external USB writer or USB disk drive. So that is kind of nice to have, but kind of useless at the same time. Also, we get our kind of shipping information, which you're not particularly interested in. But one thing I thought was actually quite nice, which you kind of expect from a pre-built PC, is this information leaflet on the Warbird series, Legion, etc. Goes into some detail on the inside, with how quick start guide, how to set things up, how to plug things in, how to get started with Windows, etc. and on the back it goes into, actually, which I thought was quite nice, goes into detail about the backup and restore procedure. So yeah, that's a quite nice thing to have. Also in the box, I've currently put in a couple of additional extras which were floating around inside the case. One of which is this little beauty, which is actually one of the retaining mechanisms on the front of the case, which was actually snapped off in transit. The actual front of the case was slightly loose, so that is potentially why, because that broke off. And also there's another one of these legs which is broken off, which I'll show you a little bit more where that actually comes from on the front of the case in a little while. Also, when I picked it out of the box, it was making quite a rattling noise, and I was a little bit concerned that something had gone completely wrong. It wasn't the end of the world, but not great. So the actual fan blade had managed to somehow separate itself from the fan holder. Now, if you've got an old fan that doesn't work in your house or in your computer bin or whatever it is, take one of these fans and try and pull it off. Just try and do it. It is actually a very difficult thing to do. So how the hell this managed to actually come off in transit, yeah, that's pretty frightening. This must have taken quite a bump. There was some damage to the actual case, the foam that surrounds the PC itself, so some of the foam was damaged. Unfortunately, with some GameMax cases, I've had quite a few cases from GameMax, and their packaging isn't always the best. The foam they use is that kind of really brittle foam which breaks quite easily. Yeah, so not particularly impressed with this. I have actually reached out to Yoyotech on their Facebook page and kind of asked to speak to someone before I went back to Game and actually complained, because obviously Yoyotech for us in the UK is a UK company and I want to try and help them out if possible, but unfortunately they haven't responded to any of my messages to have a discussion about this, the setup, the packaging, all that kind of stuff. So make of it what you will, but this is what I experienced, and from what I can tell from other people who've bought from Yoyotech and also Game, this actually does appear to be a relatively common thing. So anyway, take that as you will. So that is the accessories and what comes in the box. So let's take a look at the PC now, and we'll go through the features and the downsides and also the good stuff that's inside it. Okay, so looking at the case itself, so the front of the case, as you can see, we've got this kind of nice swoop-in section on the front, which, yeah, I think looks pretty decent. It's not too bad at all, especially for the price point. You could quite easily end up with a beige tower for this sort of money. You've got some ventilation area here in the center. Also at the bottom where the grab handle is, this is completely unfiltered, and there is air flow coming in from the front there as well. One thing I did notice actually on the description of this, there was supposedly, well, at least from the visual description, there was supposed to be two RGB fans in here, one at the front and one at the rear. I think possibly due to a limitation of the motherboard itself, there is actually one fan header, so you would struggle to put two fans in easily. So I think they've actually just taken the front one out altogether and left that out. The back one is plugged into the back section, which essentially would work if it was not destroyed in packaging or in distribution. But that was one thing, that's one of the first things actually which I noted as being, well, come on, a fan isn't a very sort of costly thing. You could have quite easily put one in there. But anyway, I'm getting off the track. So let's take a look at the side. So on the side you can see you've got the Spartan logo. We've got some plastic protection over the acrylic screen, which I'm actually going to leave on there for now. I'm still not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this, whether I'm going to keep it, whether I'm going to send it back because of the damage, etc. I'm still waiting, like I said, to hear from Yoyotech, so we'll see what happens there. I may well speak to Game as well and see what their opinion is, whether they want me to send it back, whether they're going to credit me slightly or whatever. But anyway, you get the general idea. So side panel, acrylic side panel, easy to scratch, but again, nice and cheap and cheerful. Moving around to the back, you can see this is our 120mm fan section, where our fan is completely decomposed itself. On the motherboard itself, we've got the I/O, so we've got keyboard, mouse, DVI-D, HDMI, 4 USB 3.0s, 2 USB 2.0s, a gigabit Ethernet, which is a nice addition. I suppose 10100 you probably struggle to get nowadays, but anyway, it is got gigabit Ethernet, and you've got your 3 audio jacks, so you've got your microphone, your line out, and your line in, I believe. I can never remember what that is. But anyway, you've got 3 audio jacks, so for most people that's going to be fine. Plug in mic, plug in earphones, you're good to go. At the bottom, we've got our power supply section, so in the basement here. And again, this actual section looks like it's kind of dented in a little bit. There is a gap on this side where it looks like there's been some kind of blunt force trauma to the back of this section. Again, it is what it is. Moving around onto this side, we've got this GameMax logo embossed on here. It's not overly kind of embossed, it's very light on there. You probably actually find it difficult to make out on the lighting. So anyway, that is the back side. On the top, we've got some ventilation area. Also, we've got a USB 3.0 connector. We've also got an additional USB 2 connector, and you've got your front mounted, well, top mounted as it is in this case, headset, microphone, audio jacks, that kind of thing. We've got a reset button, which is actually quite difficult to press, which is going to be quite handy. If you go in there reaching for a USB stick, you're not going to accidentally press it. And you've got a rather large clicky power button. Moving up as well, there's also a couple of power LEDs and hard drive LEDs, that sort of thing, all the usual sort of stuff. And we've got this Yoyotech sticker, which actually isn't a very good sticker. It's slightly raised and not well cut out either, so it looks a little bit cheap, to be honest with you, but still, it is what it is. So next we're going to take a look at the backside, and this is the backside. So here we can see it's actually not too bad. The wiring's been done well, the cable management's been done excellent, so whoever built this, well done. Whoever packaged it, probably not so good, and whoever delivered it, definitely not so good at all. But we've got all the boxes ticked here, so we've got a nice cutout here for putting through the power connector for our additional CPU power. We've got a really nice big cutout here for gaining access to the cooler. Should we wish to choose it from the stock AMD one, we can quite easily gain access there to put a aftermarket cooler on, so that's really good. Power supply down here at the bottom, and it does actually turn out to be a Cooler Master MasterWatt Lite 400 watt unit, which is what we thought it would be, which is a 80 plus white unit. Not a bronze unit, unfortunately, but again, for this sort of price point, this is more than adequate. The system total wattage, probably looking around about 150 watts of actual peak power. So a 400 watt unit in the white is going to be absolutely fine, no problems at all. Cabling wise, we've got this kind of braided mesh over the ketchup and mustard cabling. Again, this price, probably what we'd expect. It's not totally offensive. It's fine, it does the job. There is an additional connector on there, 6-pin stroke 4-pin for a graphics card. So if we wanted to upgrade this with a graphics card, we can do that. Other items of note, we've got some punch outs here as well for running cables through, should you want to. 3 nice big cutouts here. Again, GameMax cases generally do actually work out pretty well. There's not really a lot to dislike from them. You may not like the actual aesthetics of it, the looks of it, but actually overall when it comes to building and using them, they actually work out pretty decently. Nice touch here is the Velcro here, hiding the cables. Again, they could have just used cable ties or something, but I think the Velcro is actually quite a nice touch there. And all of the I/O cabling has been done really nicely in this kind of jet black, so that would have been fantastic if all the cables from the power supply were jet black as well, but again, this is a very, very cheap PC. So let's flip it around and take a look on the inside. Okay, so here we have the internal guts of the Yoyotech Spartan. So actually not really a lot to see in here. Starting from the back, we've got our 120mm fan, which is completely naked at the moment because the blades are still in the other box. We've got stock AMD cooler. Now this is another thing which they failed to live up to the expectations. In the description for the item, it was supposed to be a AMD Heatpipe cooler, which at the time I thought, well, that's unlikely because there's not many AMD Heatpipe coolers around, especially for that type of CPU. They generally come with the kind of the really cheap and cheerful AMD coolers, the stock coolers. So I'm not entirely surprised, but I am a little bit disappointed if I'm completely honest with you. Motherboard wise, like we said, it's not an Asus board as we expected. It is a GigaByte, but it's got pretty much all the features on there. No overclocking abilities because it's A320 chipset. Even though the CPU is the A8-9600, which is an unlocked CPU from AMD, unfortunately there's no ability to actually change any of the settings on this particular board. Memory wise, the memory again, another disappointment. Unfortunately, in the pictures it was showing 2 sticks of RAM, which would have given us dual channel mode. It may be a slight benefit to some if you're planning on upgrading in the very near future, because it is a single 8 gig stick, so it leaves you that separate memory slot available, so you could take this up to 16 gigs, which would be fantastic. Unfortunately, the RAM is crucial and it's DDR2400, so it's not particularly speedy RAM, although you may find yourself a used bargain very, very cheaply because people really don't want that sort of RAM, so you might find it nice and cheap to give yourself an upgrade to that 16 gigs. But again, it's 2400, so you're probably better off actually ditching that RAM and putting some decent RAM in anyway if you are planning to do any upgrades. But again, that is open to conjecture. You can do pretty much what you want with it. All I'm saying is the single RAM that you get in there is not the ideal situation. And it comes on this nasty green PCB, which, yeah, I think the 1990 is called, and they want their RAM back. As I say, the system has been installed and actually put together quite nicely. We've got no real complaints there. Again, it is a very, very simple system, but all the cable work has been done really well and is managed very nicely down in this bottom section. Any loose cables have been cable tied or cable wrapped up together. The mustard bit here for the power supply isn't great, but again, it does the job and it works fine. I have actually powered this up and it does work. Unfortunately, it does have Windows 10 Home on there, which, well, it's not unfortunate it's got Windows 10 Home. The unfortunate bit is it's on version 1803, which is pretty much exactly a year old. So yeah, that came out in, well, a long time ago. So straight out of the box, this was asking to do 4 gigs worth of updates, which for some people was probably absolutely fine because they'll probably nuke it anyway and reinstall. The system was activated, so there is a digital license attached to the PC, so we've got no issues there. Yeah, just a shame to see that it was that kind of older version of Windows which needed updating straight away, especially with the security concerns that we've got at the moment. Also installed on the system, for some unknown reason, there's a load of NVIDIA drivers, which are obviously of no use whatsoever because this is AMD through and through. There isn't a shred of NVIDIA anywhere in the system. So that was a little bit of a kind of cause for concern. Maybe they do an upgrade version with an NVIDIA graphics card and it's a stock image they use for all these, which again is quite a usual thing to happen in this kind of industry. Also on the system, pre-installed was the BullGuard antivirus system, which was waiting to be activated. It wasn't activated, it's just ready to go. So you can have a trial version of that, which again, most people probably won't bother. They'll remove that and rely on the Windows antivirus or a third-party software. A slightly nice thing I saw on the motherboard, which if you can on this kind of motherboard, in the top corner where the CPU power comes through, we've got an 8-pin dedicated connector rather than the usual 4-pin on these types of boards. So we will get a little bit of extra power coming through the system, albeit you can't really do a lot with that power because of the chipset. But if you did want to put a higher wattage or a higher performance processor in here, at least you've got some form of power delivery to actually get the extra energy to that processor. So that is pretty much it for the insides. We've got the usual deal elsewhere. So we've got PCI Express slot there, Gen 3 × 4 for our NVMe drives. Also the PCI Express ×16 slot for the graphics cards, and a couple of one-time slots underneath there. Usual sort of deal. Not really a lot else to say about that motherboard. So let's take the front panel off and I'll show you some of the damage which has been occurred in transit. So in this bottom corner here, this is where the feet normally would be. So if you can see these kind of little plastic spring-loaded retainers, there should be one there and there should be one there which hold it on. Fortunately, in this particular setup, there is actually 6 of those in total. So missing one of them, we've still got 5. So it does actually hold itself into place and it does stay on there quite well. Just again, it's an unfortunate thing that it managed to get that damaged in transit. Now, while we've got the front off, we can take another look at this front panel. And we do actually have an option here to fit up to 3 120mm fans if you wanted to. Again, with this sort of level of hardware, you don't really need that type of cooling. And unfortunately on the motherboard, you've got no actual way of connecting those fans to the motherboard because the only header is the single header, which is on the back here. So we've got no headers down in this front section whatsoever. So you'd have to either rely on a separate controller or some sort of PWM regulated fans which have their own control. Maybe the Arctic cooling, the temperature controlled ones, they would probably be ideal. They normally start spinning up at about 40 degrees, so once things got warm enough, then the fan would kick in. So possibly an option. But overall, I'm really on the fence on this one. I'm not sure whether I've got a good price, a bargain, or whether I should just box it back up and send it back and just put it down to a mistake. For the money, for £120 for a full working PC, which actually isn't that slow. It doesn't feel that slow in use. I've done a benchmark on it on the user benchmark, and in that it actually comes out pretty horrendous. But having said that, for the money, I don't think it's too bad for general web surfing, watching movies, YouTube, a little bit of content creation possibly, and some very, very light gaming. I don't think you can go too far wrong. It's just disappointing that the case and the PC didn't actually manage to get its way to us in one piece. That is quite disappointing. But again, we will be doing some updates on this. I'm going to do a reinstall of Windows on here, fresh install the latest version, all the latest drivers, and install some Steam library games on here, see what they run like. Also, see if we can improve things a little bit, possibly maybe an extra stick of RAM, see if it actually makes much difference being in dual channel, all those kinds of things. But again, if you've got any suggestions or anything you'd like to see benchmarked on this particular system, please do let us know in the comments section. And obviously if you want to see how this progresses, please do click on the subscribe button and the chime icon, and that way you'll find out when new videos are released. But that pretty much wraps up my initial look at the Yoyotech Spartan. Let me know, what do you think? Is this kind of pretty much what you're expecting? Did you expect it to come through as damaged as it was? Or am I probably over-egging it a little bit? Is this kind of to be expected these days in modern PC builds? Let me know what you think in the comments. So that pretty much wraps things up. This has been the Yoyotech Spartan. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.